Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Awakening Potential Show. It's your gateway to the extraordinary. And today on the Awakening Potential Show, we have an incredible guest whose journey embodies resilience and give back and just really taking a breath of fresh air. She's another horse person like myself, so I gotta mention that because it really has been a guiding light, certainly for me being around horses and really getting to know animals in general, but horses in particular. And Carmen Theobald is a powerhouse when it comes to, I'm going to say, wellness education, guiding others to listen to themselves and really stepping into their um what's the word I'm looking for? Their potential. I'm going to say their potential. Carmen is the founder, she director of Horse Sense North, where they offer personal growth, leadership, and team development, and a trauma recovery with other horse sense. And it's funny because horse sense used to be my blog name, right? Back in the day, right? So I'm totally relatable. And, I go off tangent, but she gets it. She's an international keynote speaker, presenter on the topics of trauma healing and empowerment. And with over 60,000 hours of the art of building bridges between the worlds of horses and humans. I love that. Carmen strives to support others in both species, creating a deeper sense of safety, wholeness, and freedom. I love that so much. She believes that healing individual and systemic levels is part of the activism in what the world needs. Carmen, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm thrilled to have you here and share a little bit about your journey and your wisdom that you've learned through that journey, especially alongside horses, because I know I have just learned so much, and horses embody so much intuitive. It's really supported me in bringing mine out, and I'm curious to hear yours. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Karen. It's a true pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So I'm curious, and for our listening audience, like what started you on your journey? Have you always been around horses, or like what started where are you?
Sure. So I grew up in Montreal in Canada, and I did not grow up around horses. I had a handful of horse experiences sprinkled throughout my childhood, like one ride, one summer kind of thing. And then a couple of summers later, it was one thing that happened. I knew I loved them. I loved all animals, but I didn't have really any experience or opportunity to be with them in a real learning kind of way. And when I was in college, my life took a dramatic turn, which I can speak about it if you want me to.
Sure.
But sure, but all to say that that was really a turning point that got me out of the city and started my life with horses when I would have been just turning 19. So ever since, I've been completely and utterly obsessed. And they have helped me heal and grow so much. And I'm so honored to be able to build that bridge with other people so that they can
Yeah.
safely do that kind of growing as well.
Beautiful. So what I'm getting out of that also is that was probably one of your awakening your potential within you. Is it safe to assert you had some sort of trauma that happened within your own life, which was the catalyst for you becoming that for others?
Yes, and I would say it's a bit twofold. So I definitely grew up in a home with a large amount of trauma, various kinds that created a lot of, I would say, like complex post-traumatic stress. But I was navigating that in this reality where I was like doing my best to get through and choosing things in a way that felt like I was connected to myself, but still operating within the kind of confines and boxes of what it meant to live a life. Especially at that age, I was, just going into college. I was still living at home, and there's so many expectations and pressures and doubts that we can have about ourselves. Never mind when we're trying to find our way in what are we going to do with our life. I think that question can come up
Exactly.
anytime.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then when I was in college, so this is the part that I really invite our listeners to take care of themselves if
Uh-huh.
this is going to be activating for them. because there was definitely a traumatic incident that took place. I was in a school shooting while I was there. I was studying social services, so I was already kind of in the direction of doing some kind of helping
Yeah.
field,
Yeah.
and I really ended up thinking I was going to die that day. I was stuck in a classroom for 45 minutes, listening as the shooter got closer and closer to where we were,
Mm.
and I did not really believe I was going to make it out. I didn't know for sure, but I was okay with it. And this is, I think, important that I'm talking about more lately, because when you say, like, was there this kind of transformative piece, not only was it super traumatic for sure, but also there was something that happened inside of me that I felt can best be described as post-traumatic growth, where, and that's not my term, that's a term used in a bunch of different capacities in mental health, because we think so much about post-traumatic stress, but we don't
Right, right.
as often think about post-traumatic growth. And if we're talking about awakening our potential, post-traumatic growth can happen in the moment of a traumatic incident, like I experienced. I actually had a turning point moment during the shooting that I got into this huge amount of alignment and connection with my spirit and a surrendering to the present moment, while still being very embodied and able to act if I needed to. Um, but it changed everything. But post traumatic growth can also happen anytime after we've experienced trauma, after we've been experiencing post traumatic stress, maybe for years. So,
Right, right.
how can these very difficult moments open up doors for us? Not that I ever want someone to have to go through them, but if we
Exactly.
have, we can really evolve and awaken beautifully.
Right, absolutely. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. That must have been, I can't even imagine what that must have felt like.
Mm.
That coming out of that, I'm asserting that it's really made you a stronger, more resilient person as well, and
Mm.
giving back on a whole nother level as a result of that.
Yeah, and it's been really amazing because lately, as I've had more speaking opportunities and speaking internationally as well, in the US in particular, because it's terribly known how much school shootings or shootings, period, are unfortunately
Uh,
so devastatingly common. It's been one of the biggest gifts of my life to have people who have experienced something similar talk to me after sharing my story, after having whatever interactions with them, and hearing how it's made a positive impact, because there's so much bad news. So how can we create more hope, resilience, and good news with and for each other in community, whether that
uh,
community is through a podcast like this one, thank you, Karen, or whatever event, or just knowing each other and sharing our hearts with each other. So
uh,
yes, I'm grateful for what I've become, although I'll never say I'm grateful for the experience.
Exactly. And I love that you said that. Thank you, Carmen. Because, for me, I was just talking to this young kid and we were talking about community and awakening potential, right? There are so many people that have never been through a shooting or never experienced it. Let's please God, I hope that never happened. But one of the things I love about community is what I heard you say, if I heard correctly, is people showed up who have been in that, so it becomes relatable, and now you have a community of people to relate to, and more importantly, emote it to get that trauma out of your body, because that's what causes ease or dis-ease, right? If you don't get it out. So it sounds to me like you found a community of people, and getting the awareness out there has been huge, and that, I'm just another part of that community, and I thank you for sharing that.
Such a pleasure. And I appreciate too how that moment when I left the school, so I when I thought really that was going to probably be it, but then came to this point of being at peace with it in this way that I never could have expected.
Right.
And then moments later, police officers came into our class and silently escorted us to a position of safety. And I got outside and I felt the sunshine on my face, and I took a deeper breath, and the reality really started to sink in that I was alive. And that has been the biggest gift and turning point for everything to come, because
Yeah,
when I really gave myself the permission to live my own life that was so
yeah,
precious and obviously could be so quickly shortened, um,
yep.
then the doubts and pressures and expectations just didn't really matter anymore.
Isn't that so? Oh gosh, yeah, we have a lot in common. I just got my what I call my God bumps. I had an accident, a major accident where I went flying off a horse in Costa Rica and had major surgery down there. And for me, it wasn't about, and I'm asked all the time, do you hate horses or you blame it? And I'm like, how can I blame the horse? He had sore feet. He wasn't, they don't take care of him the way we do here. And I can't be pissed off at an animal that was, experiencing the pain and suffering that he had. But it was a wake-up call for me, the same thing. So whether it's a shooting or an accident or somebody leaving relationship wise or finances going out the tube, whatever it is, we have an experience and we get to choose who we're going to become as a result of it. And like you, I mean, I chose to really in the moment when I remember laying there in the sand, looking at my feet, which I couldn't move, and saying, "I'm still alive. I'm alive," and it was like the doctors told me, like, your chances of walking are going to be slim to possibility. And I'm like, no, that's your diagnosis. It doesn't have to be my prognosis. And I'm like, I'm alive. I am going to be walking and I'm going to be living my life full out. And as a result of that, instead of saying, oh, I'm never gonna dance again, I'm never gonna, yeah, it was almost like I proved to myself after that I was living life full out. Has that been your experience as well? I mean, I don't want to make this about me. It's
No,
like
it's super
so
relatable.
relatable.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. That's exactly what it's been because it gave me access to a level of courage that I didn't have before.
That's the word, courage.
And I that has been majorly involved every day of my life ever since. Now, I
Yeah,
think it is like a muscle. If we don't practice and keep it strong, then it can subside and wane and atrophy, just like a muscle can. But
yes,
it's like a power boost to that courage muscle. And
exactly.
horses have been the continual muscle building and training to keep that courage muscle really strong so that I can
Yeah,
keep living
absolutely.
life in the most aligned way
Yeah,
possible, even when every other voice in my life tells me I'm wrong, even when every other voice thinks that I've lost it, and I'm like, no, this is what needs to happen and this is what I'm going to
right.
pursue. And look at that. Isn't it great now?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I love that. And oh, I'm so grateful. I'm grateful you're saying that because it comes up often, and for our listening audiences that are in their head doubting themselves and oh, I don't know if I should have, would have, could have, maybe, or I can never relate to something like that. We all have experiences, and for me, it's a lesson. And we could choose to respond or react to it. And depending which direction we choose, yeah, you and I both have chosen to step into our greatness as a result. I call it our greatness. It
Thank you.
wasn't great going through it, right?
Yeah.
It actually sucked going through it. We came out the other side stronger. And I'm also asserting, and I don't want to speak for you, but I know myself. I mean, I came out that it was an attitude shift for sure.
Mhm.
And also I found resilience on a whole nother level. What was that for you?
I couldn't agree more. That's exactly what it was like. To the point where I left Montreal, I left home, I left the city I knew, I left all my family, I left all my friends,
Right.
I left school, I
Mhm.
left all the plans that I had ever made for my life,
Right.
and got on a bus and went to volunteer and work on a farm. And
Wow.
that's how I got involved with horses. I just
Wow.
moved away and just I had no idea what the next steps were. I thought I was going to be at this farm actually for 2 weeks. I ended up being there almost 2 years.
Love it.
That's how I got an apprenticeship through that experience,
Right,
working
right,
as a
right.
farrier, so taking care of
Yeah.
horses' hooves.
Right.
And that's kind of in that intensive horse experience, because I've now worked with thousands of horses in that kind of way. They led me back around to the world of people because when I really left Montreal, I was intentionally leaving humans behind and kind of in a horseshoe. The
Right.
horses brought me back around to people.
Oh,
And I wouldn't have the ability to make those choices. I wouldn't have the um, every part of myself that needed to show up to get through those hard learnings, those excruciating uphill mountain climbs of building the skills, of getting the certifications, of getting through the hard days, of getting through the moments where I was doubting myself too, but like I also
exactly.
had this voice inside that needed to be heard. And so I
Ex-
think about it kind of like all of these things, they turn up the volume on that little voice inside, and they turn
Uh-huh.
down the volume on all the other, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear in your podcast, but all the other crap, all the other shit that's out there, that makes us feel really small and fragmented and not really who we are. And
Exactly.
those are all just voices of fear. And I think when we get a lot more courageous with turning up that volume for ourselves, one of the
Exactly.
beautiful and sometimes unexpected consequences of that, um, yes, okay, we may lose some people on the way, but we also gain more people and we inspire people to do the same, not to
Absolutely.
ever live life our way, but to live life putting up that volume dial on what's true in their heart, what's true in their body and their being and their soul. So we're at a point that in this world, we need so much more of that. I
Mhm.
have simultaneously devastation about our world and so much beautiful hope and belief because the ripple effect of what it can do when we really lean into that inner truth and dial up that volume dial of what our heart is telling us,
Yeah.
that is an unstoppable force that is beautifully contagious.
Yes.
And I really hope that all of us can lean in a little bit more to that kind of courage.
I love it. And I love the fact that you utilize the word courage because I think that's the key word that really opens doors, right? When we step into the unknown and allow some of the fear to be like put off to the side, like I'm doing it anyway, kind of thing. And what I heard you say is that through it all, you're still allowing yourself to grow. And as even though it sucked going through it, and I'm going to say that live on mine, even though it sucked going through it, because I know it well, and mine was like super painful, physically, yours was super painful, mentally and emotionally, I'm certain. You know, we allow ourselves to step into the courage. And when we do, it's amazing for me. And like I said, I can only talk from my experiences, but it sounds like doors start opening and opportunities start showing up. In a million years, you probably never would have imagined yourself doing what you're doing today, right?
Definitely not. I didn't know these jobs existed. Never mind imagined me doing them.
Right, exactly, exactly, exactly. So tell us more, like what's next for you, or where are you going, or I mean, do you know where you know what's next?
Well, I mean, I can have ideas and we'll see what happens, but
Right.
I would love to share. So, as things unfolded, as I really kind of got more involved in all parts of my being, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually with horses, and felt like I needed to do this next stage of building this bridge between the worlds of horses and humans. Um, that's when I created Horse Sense North. So that's our business where we work with different people from all different backgrounds. I'm particularly passionate about working with people who serve others. And that can
Mhm.
mean a lot of things. But I really love working with community-based organizations, places that are, in support of other people, individuals who have some kind of serving or helping role, parents, a person who has no technical role, but just like wants to find a way of living into their purpose, which has to do with some sort of service. Um, I'm most passionate about that. And we do a lot of work with public safety personnel. So, military,
Right.
veterans, first responders, different people from those backgrounds, in part because I'm alive today because of them. And it's really wonderful to be able to give back to the people who really serve or want to serve our communities
Exactly.
better and to stay capable of doing that. So we have a program specifically for public safety personnel. We do a lot of different kind of collaborations in that space,
Mhm.
and I just have so much hope not only about supporting individuals through that, which we've had phenomenal experiences with, both with horses and without. But I'm really excited about kind of getting my foot in the door to do more upstream work. So we do quite a bit of leadership training. I do quite a bit of leadership
Right.
training. And I'm starting to be able to get into some of those first responder organizations to do some leadership stuff because changing the cultures, changing the systems that are actually creating so much harm, both for the individuals working within them and for the communities who are supported by them, is
Yeah.
extremely important to me. And I think that so many incredibly powerful and protective and loving hearts go into those fields, and they get really stomped on by their organizations that have so much stigma, that have cultures that just exemplify a lot of harm. And we can do better, and everyone deserves better. So it's such a gift to be in that space more and more.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I so appreciate you and what you're up to. And the world needs more people like you for sure. For the listening audience, I mean, first and foremost, we're going to have all of your contact information in the show notes. So if anybody wants to get a hold of you, and I know you said you had mentioned you had a free gift. Why don't you tell the audience what your free gift is? And
Thank you. Yes, I'd love to. So, one of the offerings that we have is this wellness program called Beyond Self Care Transformational Program. It's a self guided online course. And there is a paywall for that one. However, within that, there are 5 guided visualizations. So, this course, it kind of goes through these 5 different roles of self leadership. So, I do these leadership trainings for organizations. And then I have a self leadership model that is horse inspired, nature inspired, that we integrate in sometimes organizations for their wellness, sometimes it's part of a first responder or trauma recovery programming. And part of those 5 roles of self leadership, there's a guided visualization to kind of embody and invite us to go into those. And so I'm giving those 5 visualizations to your listeners for free. There will be a coupon. I think it's preview 5, but please look at the show notes because I'm going to confirm that with Karen by email. So that there's a link on our site that has a password, and you'll just be able to put that in and access those anytime.
beautiful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that greatly. Um, so leave it get as we're coming to the end. Is there something that you would like, I call them pearls of wisdom. Is there a pearl of wisdom that you want to leave the listening audience with?
I appreciate that question, and it feels like an honor. I would love to. I hope that I can share this well because this is what the horse teachers have been trying to teach me the most,
Mhm.
and what my biggest horse mentor, her name is Grace. Um, she's this incredible matriarch. She's no longer with us, but she supports us from across the Rainbow Bridge all the time.
Mhm.
And one of the things that she really loved to teach our clients the most, and I see this happening with horses all over the place,
Right.
is that we really need both softness and strength at the same time, that we need to be able to be powerful and gentle. I think so many of us shy away from that word of power for good reason. It's been
Mhm.
so misused and abused in so many ways.
Right.
And we need it desperately, maybe now more than ever. And we need to learn how to use it where we're not oscillating between being really soft and maybe kind of almost a doormat and appeasing or people pleasing. But we also don't want to swing the other way and use power in harmful ways and power over. So to learn how to really be power with and power to, but in this beautiful middle space where the
Mhm.
paradox exists, where we can actually be both really, really soft and gentle and really, really strong and powerful at the exact same time. So I
Love
guess
it.
that's my invitation, is that first of all exists, and that it's actually maybe not as far out of reach as we might think.
I love that. I love that. I have learned so much from horses, and that was one of the messages that I had gotten from mine. And my spirit horse is always with me. And when I feel, I want to reach out, he's my shoulder, and I so miss him. But I've learned so much from Kim, as I have from my horse now, and the energy that they put out. And when we embody the energy of the lessons that we're learning from them, it just makes us that much wiser, stronger, and potential is there.
Yes. Awaken that potential.
Awakening again. So I'm curious before we part, what is
Mm,
the embodiment, right? I'm
mm,
big into energy and embodiment.
mhm,
What is the embodiment of the horse that you've taken on for yourself?
Ooh, I love this. And I think it's actually super connected to what I just said, where it's the feeling of being deeply rooted and deeply grounded in this very powerful way
Mhm.
while being extremely centered in my heart. So
Yeah.
that my heart is really the leader and the guide, and that sense of deep rootedness and confidence and energy. is available and accessible and
Yeah,
supportive.
exactly. Thank you for sharing that. For me, when I was going through, my horse got struck by lightning. I had two horses that got struck by lightning, and one passed, and he's the one that he's always with me. He's always on my left too. It's so interesting. And Truman, who I now have, he got struck by lightning and survived against all odds. And what both experiences have taught me in my becoming is power, beauty, grace, and ease. So when you said grace, I was like, but yeah, I mean, power, beauty, grace, and ease. So
I
that's
love
the
that.
energy that I know myself to be now. And that's what
I
I
love that.
right? Yeah,
And I
so
just have to slip this in because it was so magical and mind blowing. I just had the beautiful opportunity of speaking at the Warwick Schiller Podcast Summit in California. And there were so many different presenters, and nothing gets organized in advance. And of course, I shared a lot about grace. A lot of my talk had to do with grace specifically.
good.
And
Good.
but then there was this whole theme of grace at the whole conference where there were like four other graces that were talked about, and this concept of grace was so interwoven, and it just I
Good.
love these moments that like remind us how much magic is actually in the world
Exactly.
to
And
help
I
us
like
awaken our potential.
exactly. And there are never any coincidences, right? I like to
Yes.
think everything is messages. So
Yes.
they are actually having this conversation with you right now is also reaffirming it in me, the
Yeah.
power of grace. So
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you
Thank you,
for being
Karen.
here and having this conversation with us. And we might have to do it again at another time as well and just see where else you're at, what's going
I'd
on.
love that. Thank you,
Yeah,
Karen. Yeah.
thank you. And for our listening audience, thank you for joining us on the Awakening Potential Show. And as you step back into your world, remember the bridge from ordinary to extraordinary is built with small steps of change and big leaps of courage. So let today's insights from Carmen Theobald be a guiding light as you navigate your own journey. And remember, you were born to be different, so make a difference, right? Let your light shine. Until next time, continue to awaken your potential and illuminate the extraordinary within. Stay inspired. Bye for now.